1 second. All right, Mr. Don Green, I love being behind the scenes. I love these type of conversations where we're in the green room. And for those folks that are just tuning in for the very first time and want to know who is Don M. Green, and what is this book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich? My question to you is, can you take a moment and frame for the audience a little bit about the book, Think and Grow Rich, and who was Napoleon Hill?
Napoleon Hill grew up in the same area I live in today, in the remote mountains of the Appalachians, born in 1883. And his haunted by a lot of other people was seeing wealthy people and wondering why they were wealthy and others were not. And it's something or other he took as a challenge and spent his lifetime doing. And lots of people are successful doing the things by trial and error or whatever, without studying a book or a set of documents or whatever. But he noticed these characteristics of people, and he kept interviewing people. And in 1908, he was writing newspaper articles for a magazine, Bob Taylor's magazine. Bob Taylor was a U.S. Senator from Tennessee and known as one of the outstanding orators of his day. And so he interviewed successful people with that question in mind. You call them success stories or what have you. And there have been people before Hill, like Samuel Smiles wrote a book, Self-Help Psychology, and that why some people were successful, people had overcome adversity. And he noticed there were certain characteristics of these people. And he kept writing and writing. And his interview with Andrew Carnegie, the founder of U.S. Steel, probably the richest man in the world at the time, who had very limited education for his schooling and so forth, who was a millionaire by age 30. And he challenged him to study, he said, psychology of why some people were rich, others weren't, what these particular successful people done. But he also said he learned from people who weren't successful. In other words, learn from these people. You can also learn what not to do, which sometimes is important. And he kept writing. His first book was Law of Success, which was an 8-volume set. He included 2 lessons on each particular subject. Massive book, sold for $2.50 a copy. And this was at the outbreak of the Great Depression. He wrote another little book in 1930 called The Magic Ladder to Success, which was more or less a condensed version of Law of Success. It never sold. At the end of 30, it was right in the middle of the Depression. We'd had the October 29 stock market crash. And he didn't write another book until 1937. He wrote Think and Grow Rich. And I think we'll all admit the title has a lot to do with it. I mean, the word rich, money, millionaire, certain words tend to jump out at you. And he was fortunate to come up with such a title, Think and Grow Rich. Of course, the first 3 words in the book is, top of the page, is thoughts are things. Everything originates in our mind. And it's what we do with what's in our mind, positive or negative, where we put action behind them and use those to get what we want to do in life. But he just kept doing it and doing it. And he studied over 500 of the most successful people that he thought was of his time. And not only did he write and publish this material, he had his own magazines from 1919 to 1923. He called Napoleon Hill's Golden Rule magazine. The other was called Napoleon Hill's magazine. And but he spoke everywhere. He traveled immensely. In one of his little journals, he showed he spoke in 84 different cities in 1 year. And this was basically traveling by car. Later on, he did fly, but at this period in time was basically, and one of those speeches was at Salem College up in West Virginia in 1922. With the graduation class, if I recall right, it was like 20-some people. One of the people in the audience was a guy by the name of Jennings Randolph. And he wrote Hill a letter, and we matter of fact, we have that letter. He said, I was so inspired by your talk that if you ever put that material in a book, I would like to have the first copy. Of course, it was 15 years later, but Jennings Randolph, he got elected to Congress. His letter said, after hearing Hill speak, he made up his mind to dedicate his life to public service. And he became an elected representative from West Virginia. In fact, he went to Washington, D.C. in Congress the first time as part of the New Deal with Roosevelt. And that was Hill's connection to Roosevelt. And we do have letters from the White House complimenting him on meeting with the president and for his contributions. And Jennings Randolph stayed in touch with Hill, got many letters from him. And in fact, when Hill set up a nonprofit in 1962, Jennings Randolph was a member of the board of trustees of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and he served until he passed away up in his, I'm not sure, he was in his 90s when he died. So his material was accepted really well. In March of 1937, there were 5,000 copies of Think and Grow Rich printed, and it sold out in 6 weeks at $2.50 a copy. And this was without the use of the internet. This is basically word of mouth.
Wow.
So it was 5,000 copies printed in March. May, there was 10,000 copies printed same year. It sold out also real quick. So in August, they printed 20,000 copies. So you had 3 printings in a short period of time, the same year, 35,000 copies. And that was a lot of books to sell at $2.50 a copy in the Depression. But what happened was some of those were large orders. Employers bought it to give to their employees. And that seemed to continue all down through life. Even in his latter years, people like W. Clement Stone of Combat Insurance Company, he gave all of his employees a copy of Think and Grow Rich, and he had thousands of employees. And the material is as relevant today it was when Hill wrote it.
Wow. And that's so important. And you know, in the book, I know you wrote the book, Everything I Learned About Success, I Learned from Napoleon Hill. That's kind of a remix of the title. But for those folks that are watching, the entrepreneurs that are out there, the single moms, the single dads, the married couples, you know, one of the principles of the book, Think and Grow Rich, is you must have a burning desire. You must have a burning desire. I'd like for you to take a moment on not only the importance of having a burning desire, but for the entrepreneurs out there, they're like, look, that sounds cool, but what about me that I got to take my kid and drop him off at school? And then I've got to go deal with my boss at work. And then after I deal with my boss at work, I got to come home and I got to be an entrepreneur, or I'm going through a sickness, or I'm going through a divorce. So my question to you, after you talk about the principle, you must have a burning desire. My real question to you, Mr. Don Green, is this. How does someone keep that burning desire going with so much going on in their life these days?
Well, it's balance is extremely important. I'm not a Mormon, but the Mormon church have a saying, success begins in the home. So you can't just concentrate on making money. I remember doing a fundraiser with Zig Ziglar, and he talked about a guy he was talking to, and said the man told him his trouble. When he was at home, he was worrying about his job, and when he was on the job, he was worrying about his home. And Zig told him, said, your mind's worn out from traveling, but not getting nothing done. So he kind of made it as a joke. But that balance, it's probably not real easy, but I think it's analyzing what's most important. I was president of the Little League when my daughter was in high school, because she followed the kids and what have you. And I guess I was a bank president, and they saw my ability to raise money, and they needed money. But I noticed so many parents dropped their kids off on Saturdays. Maybe it was a necessity. They had other things they had to do. But I'm thinking, if you're not working, what's more important than spending time with a youngster? I mean, they need that encouragement in their life. They get a lot of negative information, but you drop a kid off and you never see them play a ball game, you never attended them, you don't even know who their teachers are, you don't know what subjects they're taking. You got to take some interest in them young people's life. They will get it somewhere, and they may not get the attention that they should be getting. So the balance is important, extremely important. You got to spend. I said I was married 54 years before my wife passed away, and somebody asked me how to do it. I said, listen, these girls like to be courted. Because you've been married 30 years, it don't mean that you don't get them flowers, that you don't take them out to a nice place to eat. No. I said, that's necessary. I said, if you're not taking care of your home life, if all you're doing is making money and you're not connected, I mean, the children, they should look up to their parents as heroes. I mean, you should lead your life so is that. I can remember my wife kidding my daughter one time, said, "You believe your daddy can walk on water, don't you?" She said, "Yes." And so I think that you can make a car to extremes. You can spoil them or whatever, but your children and your spouse, they deserve some time too. And you can have an unbalanced life. So you can make a lot of money,
Mm.
and your wife's bored stiff, and your kids can't stand to be around you. You're doing something wrong. Making money, yeah, money's important, but also your time is important. You know, as I tell people, if they take up too much of my time, I says, you can steal what little money I got, and I'll get it back because I keep on doing it. But you steal my time, I can't get it back. We only got so much, so we have to make decisions. And it's not the number of hours you spend on a job; it's the quality of the time you put on a job. What are you getting done? Are you wasting a lot of your time doing minor things that could be best handled with someone else? I mean, you got to develop good people around you. And I said, coming out of the bank one day, I was approached and by a gentleman said he asked me if this certain lady still worked for me, and I said no, she never did work for me. She worked with me,
Mm.
and that's an extremely important because if you're taking care of your employees, they're going to take care of you.
That is so true, and that's a good transition or segue to one of the principles that's called auto suggestion. Now, for some folks, they're hearing this for the very first time, and in this summary, if I can give you that, the Cliff Note version is really the ability to focus your mind on your burning desire so much that it kind of goes to your subconscious mind and you really start to believe it or get the desired outcome. That's the Shay Brown view of the world. But I'm going to ask Don M. Green if he will talk about auto suggestion. First, what is it? And number two, how can we as entrepreneurs, how can we apply that in our life and in our business? Auto suggestion, ladies and gentlemen, this is it's so many principles, but this is really important. I want you all to pay close attention. You can hit the share button. We have permission if you want to share this with your social media tribe. If you want to share this on Facebook, you can do that. So all of you can hit the share button right now. Many of you can hit the watch party button right now, and you can go ahead and write these words. You can just write think and grow rich. We're having a conversation with the one and only Don M. Green, who wrote the book. Everything he learned about success, he learned from Napoleon Hill. It's pretty cool. All right, Don M. Green, talk to us about auto suggestion. What is it, and how can we apply it as entrepreneurs?
It is extremely important. Auto suggestion, I would make it simple and say it's talking to yourself. It's not only talking to yourself, but talking to yourself in a positive manner. We learn by repeating things. If I ask you, said, Mr. Brown, what's 8 times 8? You're going to say 64.
Mm-hmm.
You may have not said that since the 6th grade, but if you're like I am, I said, we learn by repeating, okay? I didn't get all my ABCs the first time. I don't think I was exactly retarded, but I'm sure the first time I said them, tried to say all of them, I left 2 or 3 of them out. But we keep saying them until we get them right. Same way with multiplication tables. We learn by repeating. And if we do it by repeating a story, that's even more because it gives color to it. But the conversations we have with ourselves can affect our life so much, and I don't mean just in a positive manner, also in a negative manner. But guess what? We're different from the other animals. We have the right to choose. We can choose to talk to ourselves positive, or we can choose to talk to ourselves negative. There's even a book by the title. Okay, the guy's name's Helmstetter. What do you say when you're talking to yourself? And it's just auto-suggestion. You know, someone could walk up to you and tell you don't know what you're doing. And you can either believe them or you can say to yourself, yeah, I'll show you. And you can say that to yourself. But when you start telling yourself, that person won't give me an interview. He don't know me. They're not going to give me an audience. And you start, after you're repeating enough time, you're going to believe yourself. And guess what? You're self-fulfilling prophecy. Because we don't rise above our expectations. If we don't expect to get that interview or get to meet that person, whatever, it's not likely to happen. We have to go about it by telling ourselves, this is what I'm going to do. And then that's what he'll tell us under the desire. What do you want? And what's your plans for getting what you want? And then, of course, the word is action. I used to sit beside Mr. W. Clement Stone, and we'd kid around and says Nike stole his logo. He would say, just do it. In fact, he had thousands of little buttons, and I got one somewhere around here somewhere. It says, do it, just do it. And Hill tells us over and over again, he says, what do you want? What do you intend to give to deserve what you want? Then what's your plans? But then he says, start from where you are. So many people are waiting for perfect plans. Guess what? Perfect plans don't exist. Something is going to come up in front of you when you get started that you didn't anticipate. But that doesn't mean that you quit. And that's where passion comes in handy. And passion is absolutely necessary to carry you through these rough times, because that's the reason we write our goals down. When we write them down, they become a contract with ourselves, simply saying, this is what I'm going to do, and this is when I'm going to have it done by. And we start. He says, start from where you are. You can always change your plans. You can always get someone to help you. That's where the mastermind comes in place. But the main thing is, once you have a burning desire, and you know what you want, and you've got some plans, you start. And you can develop the plans, I said, or you can alter them as you go along. But the main thing is getting started. I listened to Napoleon one audio tape, and he's asked the audience, he said, on the average, how many people would you say quit? How many times they attempt to do something before they quit? And some would holler 6, 7, 2. He said the average of people is less than 1, because you got to factor into all those people that had an idea and they didn't do nothing with it. They never even started. Of course, you're not going to be successful if you never start. And there's no such thing as failure as long as you're trying, as long as you're putting effort out. And failure is when you simply don't either start or you quit at the slightest obstacle that comes up in front of you. And so many people do. And it's all because their desire wasn't strong enough. I quote my friend Zig Ziglar. He says, it really comes down to how bad do you want it? And that speaks volumes. How bad do you want it? Because I said, I don't care what it is. If you got something on your mind when you go to sleep and when you wake up and you keep it on your mind of a day, opportunities will jump at you everywhere when you have something in front of you. And but starting off with, the desire is extremely important. Or deafness of purpose. He'll say the starting point of all achievement is wanting to. And I think it's a human quality that each of us not only want to do better than what our parents did, but we want our children to do better than we did, because they got a better start. My parents grew up in the Depression, 7th grade education, and when I asked my mother why they went to the 7th grade, that's as far as a teacher went. And it wasn't a school in miles and miles and miles, and there was no school buses. But basically, when they got about 14 years old, the boys went to work in the coal mines, and the girls got married or whatever, and got married at an early age because that's just what they did. And they simply had no one in front of them to provide them with a guide to go by, and they thought that you do what was done before. The boys went and got a job in the mines at a couple or $3 a day, and worked at it all their lives. Mm-hmm. And they never had the opportunity we have today. So today I'm on the board of trustees of the University of Virginia and have been for 20 years. Any young person out there that has a desire can get a college education, but a lot of them don't know that. They simply, the family they grew up in, unless they've had exposures from teachers or other people, they simply do not understand the opportunity. And I said, we can call this information education or whatever, But I tell them over and over again, look at it this way: this material and education is simply a bridge. It's a bridge to take you from where you are to where you'd like to be. Just that simple. It's a means to get you from one spot to another, and the spot you're going to being so much better that you not only can take care of yourself. Mr. Brown, I figured there's four uses of money.
Okay. Four
And
uses of money. Okay.
and I've read thousands. I don't mean to brag or anything, but I've read thousands of books,
Uh-huh.
and I've never heard nobody dispute me on it. The first one is food, clothing, and shelter.
Right.
Eisenhower said if that's all you're getting out of life, most people in prison are getting food, clothing, and shelter. That's not much of life. That's all you're getting out of life. And the second use of money is we should think of in this order. First is food, clothing, and shelter, because if you don't have those, you don't have a basic life. The second one is we need to provide for when we get older. You may be, I'm 79 and still working, but I could.
Looking good. You're looking good over there.
Thank you. I hope to be saying this when I'm 90, but of course it's not work if you enjoy what you're doing. But we need to provide money. I mean, I know the Social Security, but that's not a good life. We need some money for sickness and so forth, and when we're not physically able to work. So that's a second use of money. And the third one is, I call it to lead a good life. And to me, leading a good life is mean that you're able to travel, you're able to buy clothes, you're able to buy finer things in life, go out to the nice restaurant. If somebody says, "Hey, Brown, let's go down to that new restaurant they just opened up," and Brown says, "God, that place is expensive. I have to wait to get my check the first of the month." Well, that's not leading a good life. So that's the third use. And the fourth one, which will define to me success, is you got to take care of one. You took care of food, clothing, and shelter. You've got something for retirement rather than government. Third one, you've led a good life. You've traveled. You attend sporting events. You went out to eat in nice restaurants. You had the clothes. And the fourth one, which make all the difference in the world, you still got money left over. You can make a difference in other people's lives of your own choosing, whether you want to help St. Jude's, Shriners Crippled Children, your grandkids to go to college, your neighborhood church, or many other causes out there, needy causes, and that's the four of them, and that completes the cycle of the four use of money. But most people never get to four because they never took care of number two. They try to go from one to three, and call it financial literacy. My good friend Sharon Lecter, who wrote 14 of the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, she's deeply involved in financial literacy, and as we've influenced, has had legislature pass a bill in the state's legislatures, and quite a few of them requiring students who borrow money from the government to go to school on to take a class in financial literacy, because it's an important education. It's what you do with money that speaks loud and clear. And a lot of people don't understand money. And I don't think I'm wrong. I've read that money is mentioned in the Bible more times than the word sin. So we know it is an important subject. And some of the verses I know are maybe hard for her to understand. My mom used to have trouble with the one I asked her about. I was handling the states, and I said, "Well, just give the money to them that's got it." She said, "Well, that don't seem fair." And I said, "Well, it's what the good book says. Said them that's got it, because they've shown they know how to take care of it, like the parable of the talents." Mm-hmm. So it is an important subject, and I know the verse in Proverbs, it says, I'm going to use a verse in a book I'm doing on gift of giving, that says, "Them that give freely will only be made richer, while them that withhold what is due will suffer want." That kind of sounds cruel, like, in a way, but we're rewarded for what we sow. Sow and reap. I mean, the more corn you sow, the more corn you're most likely to reap, and the more favors we do for more people. And not that we're expecting anything. It doesn't mean that it comes back to us directly, but it comes back to us, if nothing else, with just satisfaction that we've helped someone else have less means than we was. I think it's always been here for. The parable of the cutting a fig tree down was a big, healthy-looking tree because it didn't bear no figs. If we're not careful, we just take up space on earth, and when we left, we never left no footprints.
So true.
You know,
And as you were saying that, a question was going through my mind, and the book. The question is, why did you write the book? Everything I know about success, I learned from Napoleon Hill. You could have kept it to yourself, but you decided to share your thoughts inside that book. And the reason I asked that question is that the person that connected us, Eric Swanson, with Habitude, has a great conference. If you haven't heard of it, check out Habitude Conference, by the way. Eric Swanson connected both you and I together. And he said, look, he wrote the book, Everything I Know About Success, I Learned from Napoleon Hill. And I was thinking, why would he just give that away? Like, I understand the Napoleon Hill Foundation, but why did you really decide to write that book? And what was the message that you wanted to get across to everyone who reads it or listens to it today?
I was asked so many times because I guess a storyteller telling stories, and it dawned on me I accomplished two things I had in mind. One of them was any money I would add to scholarships. I think I'm responsible for each year of about 60 kids are going to college. Never count them to the head, but an awful lot of kids at college. Of course, a college is the Napoleon Hill Foundation has got we endow 20 scholarships a year, and we keep increasing the number. But then the ones I'm doing, I wrote the book for two reasons. One was I said all the money will go into scholarships. I don't need the money. Being a bank president for almost 20 years and being an entrepreneur, Mr. Brown, I've owned everything from cable TVs to spring water to dry cleaners to land development for Walmart to Dollar General stores to pizza places. I've done lots of things. But I saw it as one for money. I will let the money go. And the second one, I hope, I wasn't the best student in the world. I was not valedictorian. I said, I'm kind of like the old boy says, I didn't get through school. The school got through with me. But I would say I was an average student. I was more concerned with making money, because my dad was an underground coal miner, and they didn't hand us money to join Boy Scouts and so forth and all. As my mom said, Joe, Daddy crawls around in the mines, and he could get hurt or even get killed. We can't waste our money. So I learned to pick up pop bottles and mow yards for a quarter, and so forth. But I also learned to take care of the money. But I thought, gosh, it seems like I can listen to them, the young people. They seem to be inspired. Maybe I can inspire one by saying, hey, that dumb old boy made it. I can make it too. And with a better start than I have, and there's no reason they can't. So I hopefully I inspired other people. I mean, just like Mr. Brown getting a job here as the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I got to luck it. You call it luck or whatever. I got the best job in the world, bar none. There's 350 million people in the United States, and I'm in a town with, I think we got 3 red lights. Mm-hmm. How in the world did I ever get picked to be CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation? I've been asked that question thousands of times. Well, sometimes your ship don't come in. If it don't, you better swim out there where it is and look around. Like you said, you're going to sit there every morning, get up and drink coffee and watch TV and expect somebody to knock on the door and say, boy, have I got a deal for you. It's not going to happen. So I spoke to a historical society. I was a bank president, and one night, and two things I remember. One was it didn't pay me, and the second was it didn't even feed me. They didn't even have food, but it's okay, about 20 people. I talked about Napoleon Hill because I was speaking within a few miles of where Napoleon Hill was born. And these people didn't know who Napoleon Hill was, okay? I remember one lady in the crowd came up. I said something about where Gary Francis Pers was born. That doesn't mean anything to you. He's a young guy that got shot out over Russia that started the Cold War during Eisenhower administration. He was from this area, and I knew his father. His father used to pick me up when I was hitchhiking to go to school because we didn't have a school bus around by the door. But then the next morning I went to the bank. That night I got home. I took a pad off my nightstand, and I wrote a little letter to the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And next morning I went into the bank. I asked my secretary to send a letter out because I was doing things, Napoleon Hill and so forth, talking to people about it and reading his books. And I got a letter back inviting me to come to Chicago. And I met with the board, and I met with Mr. W. Clement Stone, had dinner with him. And I remember him telling me, he said, boy, you know these books better than I do. He said, you ought to be a board member. And I said, Mr. Stone, what do I need to do? He said, you just attend the meetings and keep up with what's going on. And that developed into the job I got today because we had a chance to sell the bank at the turn of the century. And the old guys that found the bank, they retired, wanting to to do other things, and they've been at it a long time. We took the bank from being basically broke to making a lot of money, and they saw the opportunity, and I didn't oppose it, and because I had an employment contract, so we sold the bank, and the only other trustee we had, other CEO we had was Michael Ritt, and his health wasn't good and he couldn't travel, and they offered me the job, and I told them, guys, I don't want to live in Chicago. I'm just an old country boy, but I can move the foundation to Wise. They said, can you do that? Sure. I got the books, and I said, I just need to move the accounts. So I started out in a cleaner shop where I built an office. When I built a building, I thought, someday I'll be selling my real estate and I won't have to bother the wife going in and out the house for a day, and I'll have a little place I can work out of. So my friend Wendell Barnett gave me an old desk worth about $5. I went to Walmart and bought a phone and a fax machine for $89 or something like that. I remember it was less than $100. And just before the internet, I bought a book, seen advertised a listing of it. Book publishers all over the world. It was about $275. I bought it, and I started going through there and marking those different countries and writing them letters at longhand. And a girl at the bank was working for me. She'd come by the night, get them, type them up. The next day, I'd fax them out, and we were in business. I started licensing our books overseas. Today, we've got over 500 publishers, and of course, things have changed. With the e-books, PDF files, and so forth, has changed so much. We use the internet to send contracts and send files, whereas we used to send them out by FedEx. We'd have to send people a copy that they want to review the book. They're not going to give you in advance if they're not read it. And so we'd have to send them out by FedEx, and FedEx bill would be real heavy. And of course, today we still use FedEx, but we send the PDF files out for review. Our attorney does all the information. We give him over the internet. He prepares the contracts over the internet. We sign it and forward it to the publisher in the foreign countries over the internet, and they wire us the advances. And so it's changed a lot in the 20 years that I've been here, but we also have been able to grow the foundation and help so many people and do so many things that we hadn't done previously, and more people every day.
Wow, you're just full. You're looking great, 79. You're looking great, man. You're making a difference in the world. I've got to ask the question that's on the minds of folks out there listening right now. And you hear this whole thing about persistence is really the direct result of a habit, right? And I know that's one of the laws and one of the lessons that's in the book, persistence. Take a moment, if you can, and talk about the power of persistence and how someone can really get to that state of mind where they can be persistent, even in the face of obstacles. And some people think when you're doing really, really well, that you don't have to be persistent. And that's when there's even more pressure, because you've got more pressure to keep going for what you're going. So my question to you is, talk about persistence, which is the direct result of habit.
I'd love to. And this is, all these remarks are unprepared. I didn't know what we was going to talk about, but I love doing it. But when you said persistence, I can just think, I'll tell you two people. What Hill said was, I had 17 files when I taught to class of students. They were a bright bunch, and I run across an example. I would take that example and I'd add to it. When you said persistence, two names popped up to me right off the bat. One of them was Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Mm-hmm. If you read his biography, he said what he put most into of his ability to be successful, maybe not be his exact words, was the persistence. Once he had an idea, was persistence. He stuck with it. And of course, we all know that Steve Jobs, the guy Walter Isaacson, that wrote the book, he wrote the book on who he called the four geniuses. Mm-hmm. I've read four of them. One's Ben Franklin, one's Leonardo da Vinci, and one of them was Einstein, and the fourth one was Steve Jobs. And he considered all four of them geniuses. And the other persistence I would use, I can give you all kinds of them, but I love Billy Ray Cyrus. I know you know who I'm talking about, but Billy Ray was born not far from here. I've never met him, but he's got a book called Hillbilly Heart. Mm-hmm. And he was going to Western Kentucky to old college on a baseball scholarship. He wanted to be a professional baseball player. Mm-hmm. Well, he kind of goofed up. He had some stray dogs in his room, and he got expelled by a woman president. And so he was out one day in his car, and he saw a car broke down. and he stopped to offer assistance. And the guy happened to be Dr. Bailey. That's as far as he explains it, Dr. Bailey. And Dr. Bailey says, I'm just kind of surprised that a young person would stop to help an old person out. And Billy Ray tells him, I said, well, you look like you had trouble, so I thought maybe I could help. So he helped him, and he told him, he said, why don't you come by my office one day and said, I have something for you. And Billy Ray Cyrus went by the doctor's office, and he gave him a copy of Think and Grow Rich and told him to read it. He said he read that book, and he read the chapter on persistence. And one of the chapters in his book is about persistence. He said it was like a voice spoke to him and said, Billy Ray, buy you a guitar and start you a band. And he said that's what he did. And he said his persistence. He said his bands would sometimes get $50, sometimes $100. They were playing in rough, what he called beer joints, a lot of fights, throwing beer bottles. But he stuck with it night after night, anywhere he could play in the area. And of course, we know he'd come out with that little song, Achy Breaky Heart, that the girls like to dance to. And of course, we know he's made millions. And even you find out the little story about Miley, who, by the way, he called her Smiley. He said she loved to sing when she was 3 years old at the top of her voice. And of course, she went in show business, and they dropped the S off her name, her nickname, and just called her Miley. But that's just a couple of examples of people. And of course, Napoleon, when he wrote his book, his stories were so many of them were on people who persisted. And that's what, if you read Samuel Smiles, I believe it was 1859. Mm-hmm. For concerned, it was probably the first book on self-help. Fact is, it was called Self-Help Psychology. And it's been a long time since I read the book, but I can remember some of them. He wrote one about the guy Wedgwood, who's noted for Wedgwood china. I don't remember. He worked years and years and years perfecting that china by putting it in, baking it under certain temperatures for lengths of times or whatever. And his china is world known today. And the guy invented a steam engine, Watt. He wrote about people like that because Napoleon did something similar to that, except it seemed the difference was Hill didn't write about them. He went out and interviewed them in person. But persistence is such a desired quality. I think it'll make up a lot, for lack of so-called intelligence or what have you, is simply having an idea and sticking with it. And which so many people can't. They quit it. That's the reason why I had the idea of writing a book, 3 Feet from Gold, which I started, and I got Greg Reed and Sharon Electric to finish.
Love the book.
And that's all it's about. The guy quit 3 Feet from Gold, and we know that's a true story because we have newspaper articles where R.U. Darby he paid for lectures for Hill in Baltimore in one of the bank buildings, and we have several half-page ads he ran, and it was for R.U. Darby and Associates, and he said he learned something from that because the old guy he sold to made millions, and he said he sold life insurance, and he said he never took no as an answer before. After that he developed persistence. So, and that's what the whole book is about. 3 Feet from Gold. We never know how close we are to success if we up and quit. So you can't overemphasize persistence in the success formula and again, I think it goes back to passion. It's easier to have persistence if you have a passion for what you're doing. I mean, you're not going to be sitting there watching the clock if you love what you're doing, or thinking that you're doing more than you're being paid for, or so forth and so on. It's just an important quality when we're talking about success.
That is right on the point. And as you mentioned that, the next thing that popped in my mind is here. I appreciate you sharing. This is like a wealth of wisdom. I'm just loving it, by the way. And I love the book, 3 Feet from Gold, another great book. I'm thinking we have a core belief here. And our core belief is today is my January 1st. In fact, if you're watching right now, those folks that are out there right now, you can look right below the video and you can write, today is my January 1st. And for those folks that are watching for the very first time, today is my January 1st represents that moment where you have to make a decision, and the decision could forever change your life. You either go to the gym or you sit on the couch. You either eat hamburger and french fries or you go to the refrigerator and you take out broccoli and celery and Brussels sprouts and you feel good about it. And so it's a restart. It's a rebirth. Your past does not equal your future. My question to none other than Don M. Green, by the way, my question to him is, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what goes through your mind? What's your message for folks that are listening now?
Today's the start. Anything we can put off is simply a lie we're telling ourselves. Is for example, I walk 5 miles every day. Okay, I walk 5 miles. I don't care where I'm at or whatever. I've actually missed one day. I was traveling overnight, and one day this year I only walked 3 miles. I wasn't at a close place, and it was cold out. I mean, it was cold out, but I did get in 3 miles. But I make up for it, and it's on my little, what you call it. Last year I averaged 365 days. I averaged 4.5 miles a day. And I guess a lot of people would say making goals or resolutions, I'm going to try to walk 5. I did not say I was going to try to walk 5 miles. I said I am going to walk 5 miles every day. It's a whole lot different than I'm going to try, and I am. I am going to walk 5 miles every day, and I'm running ahead of schedule because that's making an improvement. And I think it's so important that you're still moving. And there's a lot of little things. For example, if I go to the post office, I don't try to pull up to the door. I park in the parking lot just as far as I can get and still be in the parking lot to go to the post office because I get a few extra steps in. And I think it's important. And it might not be important one day, but if you miss one day, you can miss 2 days, you can miss 3 days, and whatever. You can tell us, well, it really don't make that much difference. You want to. It might not to you, but it does to me because I can see the benefit of it. And I know when you become immobile, your chance of having a long lifespan is not near as great. And I think when we say use it or lose it, I don't think our bodies. I don't think there's nothing farther from that how important it is. And people says I don't have time. That's what I say about reading books. I have all kinds of people say, "Oh, I like to read. I just don't have time." Average person watches 5 hours television. Okay. The reason that we don't read is we don't put the importance on it. That's just that simple. Everybody has 24 hours a day. It's all in how you use it. It makes all the difference in the world. And you can sit there and say to yourself, "Oh, I'd love to be able to read more, but I got to do it." But yet you find time to watch, as they say, 5 hours. Average person watches TV 5 hours a day. And I will tell you, and I won't talk about any of the networks, but I will assure you, if you'll cut the news on, and you don't cut the TV back on for a week, believe me, you more than likely didn't miss anything important because they're hashing the same stuff right over and over again. To me, it's like watching the Weather Channel. You see the Weather Channel and they predict 60 degrees, clear skies, what have you. If you watch it the rest of the 24 hours, it's probably not going to change. It's probably not going to change. But we get to choose how we spend our time. And when we say, I don't have time to read, we're saying, I don't want to take time to read. I'll make time for hey, listen, we make time to eat, we make time to sleep, we make time for things that we need to, and we don't see the need to read. But I've been very fortunate. I've been around. I won't mention names for embarrassing people, but have mentors and people that been around. I've been around a lot of the most successful people, and a thing I noticed right off the bat, real quick, every one of them was avid readers. I use one of Mark Twain's quotes because I love Mark Twain. One of his books, he said, "People that don't read, they're no better off than people that can't read." I mean, there's so many things. Just like reading them 4 books by Mr. Isaacson, or he say his name, Walter, wrote the 4 books on geniuses. There's so much good information reading about Leonardo da Vinci and Ben Franklin and Einstein and Steve Jobs. I mean, if you can't learn from people that's been before you, I think that's what the book's for. Is we got to learn from other people. Even monkeys learn from other monkeys, and surely people can learn from other people. I mean, there's a lot of intelligent people out there. Read Albert Schweitzer. He said before he died in an interview, he said, when asked what's wrong with people today, he said most of them don't think. We got this creative ability to use our mind to create things. To take a vision and make it a reality by using our mind, looking at things that can be rather than things that can't be. I published a book some months back, which was a composition of speeches of people that Mr. Stoneheart had talked to, 7,000 employees at Combine. It's people like Dennis Waitley and Napoleon Hill and Dr. Robert Schuller, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. And then one of the article was on the 4-minute mile. I believe the year was 1954 when Roger Bannister, a medical student in England, ran a mile in a little less than 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. The reason it hadn't been done before, it was impossible. Okay? A Scotsman had run it the fastest mile, 1892. And that record stood till 1954 because doctors wrote articles, the heart couldn't handle it, and on and on and on. It was impossible. And the way I ended the article on the composition was, it's only impossible until somebody does it. Today, if you look up on the internet, you look up a 4-minute mile, there's somewhere like 400 people have run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And that's what the whole thing means is, yeah, it's impossible until somebody come along and does it, and then it was accepted. You've had high school boys run a mile in less than 4 minutes because once someone done it, others believed it could be done, and then they followed too. But as long as the population was believing a mile couldn't be run in 4 minutes, that's just the way it was. It was accepted. It can't be run that fast. And so that's what we learn about thinking. Think of what can be done rather than what cannot be done. It's so easy to fall into that bit. Well, nobody's ever run it, so it must be impossible. So it's important that we think. And as I see the young people all have bumper stickers about questioning things. There's nothing wrong with questioning things. Why are the things wrong? Why do we have these subtopics where it's whether it's racism or religious hatred or what it is? I mean, we should think about things, and not only think about things, think of where we make a difference. Yeah. You know that we often see people says, "Boy, he'll leave a legacy. He'll leave a legacy." I think that sounds pretty good. That it's whether it be scholarships or something another that was left. You made a park or done something other. But I like to use the word a little bit different, and I'd say live a legacy. Don't leave a legacy. Just leave a legacy. Live one. See what changes you can make for the better while you're still here. You don't have to wait and die to start a scholarship for a young person to go to school or something other. You can do it. You can do it while you're still here, and you can see the benefit of it. I see a little kid. One worked for me who's now a pharmacist. One's got a medical degree, and my assistant's worked for me since he was 14. He's 24. I watched him through high school and finished college in 3 years and 2 years to get his MBA. And now studying for a CPA, and he's only 24 years old. I mean, to see the progress while you're still here, I think that's such a good feeling that you made a difference in somebody's life a little bit, and you didn't have to wait till you die and say, well, he left a little bit of money for this or a little bit of money for that. You can do good while you're here and make a difference. And so Earl Nightingale said, you can't do everything, but you can do something.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Leave a legacy. I love that.
I think that's where it is, and we can't do everything. I mean, for example, when Mom was in the 90s, she wouldn't bring you money if you're sick, but I'll assure you she'll bring you some food over, and she'll check on you, and she'll call you, and even 90s, and says, have you got your medicine? Now, when do you go to a doctor? Do you have a ride? And how are you doing? Have you took your medicine tonight? And so forth and so on. You can do good. You can do good with, it's not always money. But that you can do a little bit of good. And I heard those comments from people when my mom passed away, and I know she had a neighbor who got hurt in the coal business, and he ended up on, I think, old beds or something and other, and he served 18 months or something like that. Mom found out when he was getting out, because he lived close by, she baked a cake and took to him. It was really easy for other people to shun him because he'd done prison time. She didn't look at it. She didn't look at it that way. She took him a cake, and he tells me this when my mom passed away. You know, uh, he cried much as the children did. He missed her so because she was always doing something or other. He'd come do something for her garden, or she'd give him stuff out of the garden, tomato and corns and stuff like that, and was always checking on him and inviting him to church and so forth. So yeah, there's lots of things if we want to show that we really care for people while we're still here.
Yeah. And why do you still do these things today, Don M. Green? I mean, you could be doing a lot of other things with your time right now. Right now, I mean, you mentioned it several times that you're 79 years old as of right now. You're walking 5 miles a day, and yet you still find time to be on this type of broadcast right now to share this message with the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I will share with you that he didn't ask me before we got started for a Cash App payment. He didn't say wire me some money. He didn't say where's my check. He says I'm showing up for one reason and one reason only, and that is to serve. So what's one of the reasons why you still do these type of interviews and share so much knowledge that you could keep in a vault somewhere that someone would have to pay to get access for, but you're sharing it? Why?
Well, I think that's what we're supposed to do. I mean, my parents is that way. I mean, they forevermore, she would have extra, dad kept extra fish or something or other, and it was always given to the neighbors and so forth. It just seemed a way. I mean, I can remember as a child one time. There was a car broke down, and my dad could fix anything. I can fix nothing. He stopped, and my mom said, "Now, Sid said, we be careful. We'll be late for work or church." And Dad said, "Which is more important? This man's got little children that we fix his cars, or we get to church on time." And that was just it. And I've had so many times in my life that somebody was broke down, I could stop and do something other for them, and never hear from them again. And I'll tell you a story. And we're not looking for rewards, okay? I send you a book. I'm not expecting nothing back. If you send me a thank you note, that's good. That's good. But I'm not expecting it. I just had to. Something was mentioned. I said, "Oh, I'll send you a book." I'll meet somebody another, and I'll give them a card. And I said, "Send me an email." I said, "I'll send you a book." And I'm not expecting nothing back in return. But one day here, probably, I don't know, it was less than 10 years ago, I was at the end of the day, and I had someone at the University of Virginia in my office, and it was almost quit time. My assistant comes back to the doorway and said, "Don, there's a gentleman from Nigeria wants to speak to you." I said, "I can't right now." I said, "Give him my cell phone because I'm going to leave in a few minutes. And when I leave, I'm going home and change clothes. And it's time for me to get my walking in. It's a beautiful day." And she said, "Well, just be careful." I said, "We have a lot of scams come over the internet from Nigeria." I said, "Yeah, I'll talk to them." And so I get this phone call, and I'll cut it as short as I can. I know time is a precious commodity. But
Yes.
I get this phone call, and this gentleman says, he called me Mr. Don, he still does. He said, "Mr. Don," said, "this is Poly in Nigeria." And I said, "Poly, how are you?" He said, "I'm fine." He said, "Would you listen to my story, Mr. Don?" I said, "Yeah, I'm walking. I'd be glad to listen to your story." He's telling me about living on the streets when he's 14 in Nigeria, and he read Success of a Positive Mental Attitude, written by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. And he told me he sold sandals, had $5, sold sandals, made a little money, sold some more, and then he got used clothes and sold them. And then he saved his money up and went to Hong Kong and bought some men's suits and brought them back. Someone saw a salesman offered him a job as a drug rep. And of course, today he owns he's the largest distributor of malaria drugs in the world. His company is called Neros, Neros. His pharmaceutical company is on Nigeria's soccer stadium, soccer's big in Brazil. I mean, in Nigeria. Anyway, he said he read that book, and I said, "Well, Mr. Stone's our chairman." I said, "He wrote a couple of books himself," and he said, "I didn't know that, Mr. Don." I said, "Yeah, he wrote Believe and Achieve and Success System Never Fails." I said, "I always carry pencil and paper with me, but you're in Nigeria, and I'll probably get the address wrong. Why don't you send an email? You said you've been on our website. Send me an email, and I'll get them 2 books sent out to you." He said, "Okay." And so next morning I went in. My secretary, Anita, she says, "Here's an email from that man you spoke to." And I said, I went back and got them. I said, here's 2 books. Send them to him by FedEx. And I don't know, it was probably $75 or $100. I don't remember. But I mean, I tell you the truth, I forgot about the incident. I said, I did a little good deed. The guy seemed to be happy about Mr. Stone. Maybe he'll enjoy the books. And so I got a call. I don't know where it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe in a month. But he called and he said, Mr. Don said, he named over the countries. He'd been in Laos and North Korea and Vietnam and Thailand and all these Asian countries where his drugs was. He'd been traveling. He said, when I got back to office, them 2 books was yours. And I said, well, I sent them. He said, you told me you was going to send them. I said, Paulie, that's the way I was raised. My mom said, just tell people what you're going to do, but you be sure you told them you do what you told them you was going to. I told you I'd send you those 2 books, and I sent them. He said, I'm going to wire you some money. And he's got a title of Chief Paulie. He got a humanitarian award from the president of Nigeria. And he said, I'm going to wire you some money. And I said, now, Chief Paulie, I said, we'll accept donations, but we don't solicit them. If you want to give us money, we'll take it. He said, I am going to wire you $100,000. I said, well, that's great. And so he did. He wired me $100,000. But then I got his cell phone. I called him on his phone and thanked him. And I said, Paulie, you ought to come visit. I said, you ever come to the United States? He said, oh, yes. He said, I have a daughter, an attorney. She lives in Maryland. He said, I will come and visit you. And he said, I will bring you another $150,000. He said, that will make it $250,000. And he did. And since then, I've helped him, advise him on some books he's writing or what have you. And of course, he gives it to me, and I always give it to the foundation. But he's probably given me 50 or so above that 100 and that $150,000. And it all came about simple reason. I took his phone call and I sent him a couple books. Now, I was not expecting anything when I send somebody a book. Some of them thank me, some of them I hear later, some of them may probably go out and they tell other people about it. Some of them may not say a word, but my obligations ended. That's like my mom said, Don, you give away all those books. Said, you guess those kids read them? I said, Mom, this kid read them. That's all I can tell you. I hope some of them do, and that's all I can do. But when I give the book away, that was my intentions, that maybe some of them would read them. I said, if they don't, that's not my problem. I said, I just try to do a good deed, and if they take advantage of it, fine. I said, but if they don't, then that's fine too. I got no way of knowing. But I'm going to keep on doing what I've done because this kid read the books, and the books made all the difference in the world.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that story. You have a heart to give. You have a heart to serve. You have so many folks. You changed so many lives. I like that you, one, wrote the book, and secondly, that you have the Napoleon Hill Foundation. It's much needed. I want to thank you for being in overtime right now. This is a lot longer than we thought. I had my last question was for you to close out for the audience and give them their final thoughts. But I do want to say thank you for everyone that's watching right now. You can give this gift. You can pay this message forward. You can hit the share button right now. You can hit the watch party button right now. You can hit the link and share your friends. And when you do that, make sure as you do that, as folks are listening and watching right now, make sure that when you do that, you let them know to go get the book from Don M. Green. As he mentioned, he said, I don't do this for me, but the book is called Everything I Know About Success I Learned from Napoleon Hill. So hit the share button, hit the share button, hit the share button right now. And when you hit the share button, just write, it's your time. Hashtag get started now. Just put it's your time. Now, they're going to need the book. Everything I Know About Success I Learned from Napoleon Hill. All of you are watching, look below the video right now. You can look below. If you're watching this video because you're live right now and you're watching, look below the video and write, today is my January 1st. You get a fresh start. Apply the principles. I'm going to ask Mr. Don M. Green. First, let me say thank you for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We really appreciate you. I want to thank Eric Swanson for making this possible with Habitude Conference. And I want you, if you would, with your precious time, I know we're in overtime, Mr. Don M. Green, will you share your words of encouragement, your final thoughts to all the entrepreneurs who are watching right now, who have to go out there and make a difference in the world, and they're going to make $1. I understand that. But they really want to have more meaning in the world, so they will make more money, but they also want to have more impact. And that's what's most important to them. So again, thank you. I appreciate you. Can't wait to connect with you again. Your final thoughts or story for the audience that's watching right now to encourage, to inspire them to do more, be more, and have more. We appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate being on there. I know from I was a bank president, but I always took the idea I was working for myself. And I think entrepreneurs can be the happiest people on earth because they can see such results of what their efforts, what they've used their mind to do. And when they have a chance to help others, I can give you example after example after example. I can remember having a dry cleaner that I happened to come there one day, and some kids bringing their uniforms in there. And I told a lady, I said, why don't we just not charge these kids for their uniforms? And she said, we'll go broke. I said, no, I don't think so. I said, you'll never be paid. You'll never miss a payday. I said, I think sometimes it's good deed. I said, I don't care if it's hundreds and hundreds of kids come here. Let's do their band uniforms, not charge them. And perhaps they'll get their parents to come and use the dry cleaners when they find out it did. She said, what if they don't? I said, well, that's the decision they'll make. I said, and then I was in there one Saturday one morning, and some lady come in and said, can you get these done today? I said, we have a funeral in the family, and I really need these clothes. And of course, we did everything the same day. So I waited till the lady went out the door, and I said, Juanita, be sure when them people come back, don't charge them anything. Don't charge them. She said, where's our money going to come from? I said, don't look at it like that. Just say it's a good chance to do a good deed. And I said, anytime someone mentions a funeral and they bring us clothes, just tell them, oh, you're so sorry, but the clothes are going to be processed without a charge. That's what we want to do. And of course, later she told me, she said, she just couldn't believe how all the business came to us and all. And I know we're supposed to advertise, but when they say you're supposed to advertise, that doesn't mean full-page ads in newspaper or TV. We never ran a newspaper ad. We never gave away a coupon. We probably charge more than the other cleaners because we have modern, up-to-date, clean stuff. But we got the word out by our service. We did one-day service. We had drive-in facilities. We gave them a bag that had their name on it and had a tag on there how they wanted their clothes prepared. And women just loved it because they didn't have to take a look. I spent $39.95 to get a book from Entrepreneur magazine on running the dry cleaners. And the ladies loved to drive in where they didn't have to get the kid out of the car seat and didn't have to get out. If it's raining, they could reach through the window. And they had a bag that they brought their dirty clothes in. We processed them like the information said on the label. And then when we did their clothes, we also cleaned the bag separate. And we give them their bag back with their clean clothes, which they can pick up through the drive-in. And we just did the things like that. And service, people are not as conscious about what they're paying is what they're getting. And we never tried to undercut nobody. We didn't try to run those specials. We just tried to give good service and to be a good part of the community by helping the kids. Some of the kids in the bands could afford it, some of them couldn't. But I thought it was just a good gesture that we could do, and it paid off. We had a sign, and guess what we was called? The Cleaners. If your spouse said, would you drop the clothes off at the Cleaners? That was us. That was our name, The Cleaners. We put our name on it. It didn't need to be Don Green's Cleaner. It's just The Cleaners. And that was what was on the bags. That's what was on the sign. That's what was on our checks, The Cleaners. And we had it 12 or 13 years. Mm-hmm. Walmart hadn't come by and buy it for the entrance. It's still been there today. But there's a Walmart sitting behind where it was sitting in, and it was at a red light, and they needed the entrance. And believe me, they was willing to pay for it. Probably some of the most expensive real estate ever sold in the area. But we had a going business, and I showed them the books, and they agreed. And by then, I'd taken a job with the foundation, was traveling a lot, and they even give us equipment back. And I sold equipment to another guy, and he used it in another dry cleaners. But it was a good run. And it was always good. We had to spring water for 15 years. We rented the water. We sold the water to a town, and then they developed their own water. And we was on 92 acres of land. We donated the land to a university because they had the land that adjoined it. It's all wooded. We didn't want to tear up the woods, and we just donated it. And golly, first tax refund I ever got in my life was all that write-off on that, giving away that piece of real estate. But good things happen when you do good things, I think. It just, all right, it's nothing else, you just feel good about it. Life's been good, and I think you show that you enjoy life. And 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 I will sum it all up about the money bit because as a bank president and things I've noticed, money's two aspects of money. You can have money, or money can have you. And when it's the latter one, you'll lead a miserable life. If money means something to you, that you're just going after money, money, money. Money is only a tool, and it's the things that money can do. Money can go to St. Jude's, and money can go to the church. It can go to the school for scholarships or whatever. But when your only goal is accumulating money and seeing how much you can accumulate, I think you got problems, because there's no U-Hauls in funeral processions.
Man, so well said. Well, Mr. Don M. Green, thank you so much. How do you want folks to connect with you? You want them to go to the Napoleon Hill Foundation?
Yeah, our website is naphill.org. That's NAPHILL.org.
Mm-hmm. And once they get there, they can go ahead and sign up so they can stay connected with the Napoleon Hill Foundation?
We sell an online course, all of our books and audios. We've got scores and scores of books, scores and scores of audios, even like my books on audio with brilliance. Not my voice. My wife was seriously ill when that was done. They used somebody else's voice, which is probably good. Anyway, we sell an online course. Our material is taught in practically, golly, I can't name them, but we're licensing our course in Liberia and Serbia and Indonesia in the last 30 days. In other words, we furnish them everything they need to teach the same course I taught here at the college. It's the Napoleon Hill's Principle of Success. We give them exclusive rights in their language to translate it and to teach it and to sell the course. And we think we're making a lot of difference. And of course, we'll continue to publish books on Hill's old material. Like we did Outwit and the Devil 9 years ago. That was a 1938 manuscript. It's still a bestseller today. Mm-hmm. It's 43 foreign languages, because I know I just licensed in Serbia the other day, and the list is in 43 different foreign languages. And I said, they knew who he is in Iran, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, all the places we've done. Our books are published. We have 25 different publishers in Russia, more than 30 in China that publish our material. So believe me, Napoleon Hill is real popular today, much more than when he died in 1970.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. For those folks that are tuning in, thank you for watching. Go over to nap.org. That's the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Make sure you stay in the conversation. We appreciate you. I want everyone as we close out, that you all have so much greatness inside you, that you're a winner, that you're a champion, and for every single one of you, the best is still yet to come, because today is your January 1st. The best is still yet to come because you have the right mindset. And today is your January 1st. And the best is yet to come because you can get the book. Everything I know about success, I learned from Napoleon Hill. Get it, read it, digest it, but more importantly, live it. And I love what he said. Good things happen when you do good things. With that being said, my name, by the way, for those folks that are tuning in, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. God bless, and I wish you all success. Thanks a lot, Mr. Don M. Green. See y'all later. So much fun. I made to my mom. I only did this message for one person, and that's my mom. This is for you, Mom. Love you. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. Woo-hoo! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, check. Shay Brown.
Mic check, mic check.
All I do is win, no matter what. Man. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Yes. Yeah.
And they stay there. And they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win. Yeah.
Thank you. God bless.